A budget agreement has been reached in Albany. Assemblyman, good morning. And
good morning, Bill.
Is this true, and what does it all mean?
This is true. The Senate began voting last night on parts of the budget and went into recess, I think, around 2 or 3 in the morning. It's going to come back this morning. The Assembly is going to come back this morning, and my understanding is we are also going to start voting on budget bills sometime this afternoon. So
all right.
It looks like the impasse is broke, and we can move on with our lives and get this budget done.
I do think it's, I think, to be honest with you, some of the talk that you had yesterday about the school districts, that played a big role. I mean, it would be easy to say, hey, let's push it off, but with the budget votes coming up in May, that really would make it difficult for school districts and could be a really bad story for legislators.
Well, there was some interesting back and forth through the press and on Twitter yesterday because our understanding was yesterday morning we were ready to go with budget. We said, look, this is it. We're going to vote on them. And then the governor started backtracking a little bit, saying, well, we got this extended till May, and we could wait until May or after Easter till really do the budget.
Yeah.
And, we started tweeting and everything else about the impacts of waiting on school districts and other things. And I think finally everyone just kind of came to their senses and said, look, we got this budget. Let's move on and get this thing done.
Okay, what is it going to mean? I'm hearing that Uber, and I'm hearing something I think could be really bad, and maybe you can explain it, that Uber is going to pass. It's going to be upstate, but it's going to be municipalities will be able to opt in or opt out, or it's only in some cities. What's the real story on this?
What the deal is, because people who were not very favorable for Uber wanted to have something called local control, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But they wanted to have cities or counties be able to regulate Uber or Lyft, whatever, as they saw fit. Now, that seems like a good idea, but now you're going to, if that happens, you'd have this patchwork of laws and rules for this industry.
Fireworks.
So maybe one village allows Uber, the next village doesn't allow Uber. So how do you know when you're crossing these lines? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It was really a poison pill to try and prevent it from coming upstate.
Yeah.
So finally, what the final compromise is for any county in the state can decide if they want to opt out, not allow Uber in their county.
All right.
Or any city over 100,000 people could opt out. So they can't regulate. They can just opt in or opt out, which I don't think many counties are going to do. But
well, and let's hope not, because that
was the compromise.
We saw what happened with fireworks here. I mean, that was really kind of a disaster, right?
Right.
I mean, you got.
But if you look at something like Uber, which polls around 85-90% upstate, I think it would be very unpopular for any county to say we don't want Uber in our county.
Yeah, yeah. I guess there could be some sort of a taxi lobby, but really, I hate to say, once you go out of New York City, you now do not. The cab service completely changes. Now, obviously, Albany has a strong cab service. But Syracuse is not nearly as...
I beg to differ with that one, Bill.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I was in a cab in Albany, and we picked up somebody else. I've never seen that happen before. The guy's like, hey, by the way, dirtiest car I've ever been in. And he went in, he said, I got to pick up somebody else. And I almost think like, well, why? I'm paying for this. Why are you taking a double fare here? What the...
Times are tough, double fare.
But outside New York City... I think this Uber is needed so desperately because cab service is really difficult upstate.
It's not very good. It's not consistent. There's some companies that are great and they do things the right way, and there's other companies that are just awful.
Yeah.
And you call a cab. If you're trying to get a cab at 9, 10 o'clock at night on a busy night, not even maybe a busy night, maybe a Monday or Tuesday, they tell you, okay, well, we'll be there in 45 minutes, and then you're waiting 45 minutes, nothing happens. You call back, well, another 20 minutes. It's really inconsistent, which is why we need to have these ride-sharing apps upstate.
He's waiting for you. He's right there. I just talked to him. You're at the Sheridan, right? Oh, you're not at the Sheridan.
Right.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Very inconsistent. And the other issue is that many of these companies do not take good care of their cabs. That's just the fact of life. And this is not. I don't want to impugn the entire taxi industry because there are companies that do things the right way and have good cars and good drivers, and that's great. But there's some that just really do not take care of their cabs, are inconsistent in their pickups and drop-offs, and certainly don't pick up in certain areas, so it's not good.
We're talking to Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi. Word is, and he's confirming this, that the budget has been reached. An agreement is going to be reached most likely today. And, okay, other issues. What else is big in this budget? I did note that the extension that was passed on Monday did mean the hospital project goes forward in Utica. Yeah,
well, the issue is still outstanding. I think the hospital may have jumped the gun a little bit on that one.
Oh,
but,
okay.
The issue is the money was just reappropriated in the extender. The money still has to be approved by the Department of Health, and the hospital filled out this request for application, which I think, to my knowledge, they are still waiting to hear back on. They should be hearing soon. Unless they heard without my knowledge, I think they are just saying the money was approved, but technically it was just reappropriated in the budget.
Got it. Okay. What else? What else in the budget are we looking at?
The education funding thing is going to be good for our region. We're still waiting to get the school aid run, so we see what the impact is for each school district.
Was it a typo in the Syracuse paper today? They said the school districts are getting an extra $1 million has been set aside. Is it $1 billion or is it $1 million?
It's $1 billion. It's $1 billion.
I thought that was a typo.
$1.1 billion or $1.2 billion total aid package, which is $700 million going towards the foundation aid, which is really what we want. That's the number we want to see very, as high as possible, because that's going to help our local schools. There's funding for increased funding for roads and bridges, which is something I'm very happy about after getting 2 blown tires the other night on a pothole in Albany.
Wow.
There's a lot of funding in there for water infrastructure projects. Almost $2 billion for water infrastructure projects, which is something that's very needed in many of our upstate communities. There's going to be money going to the Utica Odd. You're going to hear about for some renovations going to the Odd in the next year or so, which is a good thing for our region, good for the Comets, good for the Utica College Pioneers.
Is that in addition to, because I'm told that there's construction that'll get underway in the next month with executive suites and that sort of thing. Is that in addition to that?
This is going to help.
Okay.
This is going to help that.
Got it. Okay.
It's going to help that.
How about the tuition issue, that free tuition thing?
The tuition issue is somewhat of a watered-down tuition issue program, less than what the governor wanted, but still, because it was one of his big priorities, and we have to compromise on some issues because it's the budget process. He's still going to get some free tuition. I don't think it's going to impact as many SUNY and CUNY students as initially estimated, but there is some element of free tuition in the budget. And I hate saying the word free because it's being paid by somebody.
Yeah. Yep.
But this is one of the big priorities of the governor, and we had to do what we can to try and water it down, but still make compromise.
All right.
Well, I that was my question as well. So, can you? How comfortable are you? Where you've got some students who will get a free college tuition, yet we're still fighting for. I know you said there's an increase with schools, local schools, but we've got local kids still fighting for an education. There's money for college, but not enough for high school.
I think it's an issue of priorities, and the governor's priority is really trying to get a national headline out of this thing to show that we're doing something in New York State that perhaps is not being done in other states, which it is in other states as well. But look, we're not making the right investments we should be in our K through 12 schools. We should be focusing more on early childhood education and making sure we have enough teachers in the classroom instead of places like Utica where you got 35 kids in a class, because that's what's going to ensure kids get a chance to go to college. And when you make those investments early on, then more children will have the opportunity to go to college. And we can do more on college affordability to try and make sure the cost is not skyrocketing, so providing more tuition assistance programs and things like that. But, I'm concerned with the free tuition, how it's going to impact our private colleges like Utica College, how it's going to impact community colleges, which are already affordable and have declining enrollment. So we'll see what the impacts are of this, but it's something that there was 2 or 3 priorities of his, this being one of them in the budget, and we had to do what we can to try and compromise because it takes three to tango in the budget process.
It is amazing what happened. This governor, who was touted by Republicans as being somebody who was moderate, and even Republicans were saying, "Well, this we kind of like where this governor's going." Then came the SAFE Act, and now today he's become Governor Bernie Cuomo. It's just really it's crazy how his priorities have changed over the last few years. So. All right. Well, I'm sure this is a relief to you and all the other legislators out there that there's some end in sight here.
Well, there's an end in sight. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad that there's going to be some certainty for our schools going forward now when they're going into their budget process here. So that's good news for everybody.
All right. And again, thanks for being available for us and giving us an update.
Anytime.
All right. Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi.